What is up, Disney nerds? So today I just saw Renfield and I kind of want to give my spoiler review on it because this movie is pretty good and there has been hype for it. I was really anticipated towards it. So I kind of want to give you my review of it and what I think of the movie overall. Let's jump right into it. So starting off, I went into this movie not really knowing what to expect. The trailers kind of gave me a comedy/horror vibe. And this movie definitely delivers a lot on the comedy aspect. Not really horror. There is a little bit of a horror element, but it is definitely a comedy film. This is very weird as a movie. I get very much like a mix of the Monsters movie that Rob Zombie made and Violent Night combined. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, the Monsters for me, I did not like at all. But I enjoyed Violent Night. So there's like a few elements with this movie that are really good. And then there's a few elements that are just like, I don't really know if I like that. I have goods and pros and cons with it. Starting off with the plot, I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. This movie's plot, you know, we got a narcissistic Dracula, and what's really cool is the opening is like the original Dracula movie from like the 1930s, whenever that movie came out, a long time ago, 100 years ago actually, and that kind of like shows you how Renfield and Dracula met. This movie's kind of like a sequel in a way to that original Dracula movie, and that's what I really like about this movie a lot. I like how it's like a modernized version of Dracula, but the plot really, it was really good. You had Renfield going to these anonymous meetings full of people that are dealing with narcissistic people, and that was my favorite parts of the movie. Extremely funny parts. I was really laughing a lot during those parts. And overall, like, you know, the Dracula scenes, the mix of Dracula and Renfield, those were very great. Now, the problem with the plot that I felt that I didn't really like is the cops and the mafia scenes. Whenever we got to the mafia, especially like kind of towards the end, I was like, this really just isn't like, I'm not really getting a good like it's not what I really want. Like, I don't really want to see the mafia interact with Dracula. Like, I feel like it's a cool concept, but it's nothing that, like, I truly like. Like, okay, so the visual effects, this, for me, I was very picky, I felt. I'm going 5 out of 10. Now, that's where I get the Monsters vibes from. The lighting in this movie, extremely like the Monsters, which I kind of like a little bit, but when it's overdone slightly, especially for the first half, I don't know. I was like very into it, but then I was like, oh, I don't really know if I can deal with this the whole movie. But then it stopped kind of and it went back to like normal lighting. And also a good positive, Nicolas Cage looks amazing as Dracula the whole movie. Very cool. There's also scenes of people with no limbs, stuff like that. And it's pretty good. The only big issue when it comes to movies like these that I just can't stand is the CGI blood. The amount of CGI blood in this movie, it just makes it like look, I don't know, like it's not fun. Like it's not like I'm going there like, oh, like I'm just like, okay. I'm like disgusted at the fact on how like weird it looks. I don't think it looks realistic. Now, there are a few scenes that are really cool, such as Renfield kind of splits a guy in half, and that's pretty like, whoa, that's awesome. And then there's also a scene where he kind of rips the guy's face off, uses a plate to like, you know, whack someone. That's cool, but then there's scenes where like just CGI stuff comes out, and it's like, that doesn't even look real, and then it just goes away, like it's not even on the floor, and it's like, come on. Like, I really like practical effects, And when it comes to practical effects in movies like these, I think it very much works. That's why I really like the practical effects for Nicolas Cage when he's Dracula. When I notice it's CGI blood, I just go, that's not fun. It's kind of like Morbius when he's like, phew, and it's just blood comes out. It's like, what? There's no fun in that. Like, you shouldn't even have blood at that point. Now, acting. Acting was pretty good in this movie. Like, I actually really liked it. I'm going 7 out of 10. Nicolas Cage does a phenomenal performance as Dracula, in my opinion. A lot of the performances, Nicolas Cage tends to go overboard, and this role is perfect for him because Dracula can go overboard as a narcissistic vampire. And I think this is the perfect role for Nicolas Cage. He does a tremendous job, and so does Renfield. You know, he plays Beast in X-Men, and he played in The Menu. And I feel like this performance was way better than the Menu performance that he portrayed. And I actually really like this, and I also like Awkwafina's performance. Awkwafina always gives me a good chuckle. She has great comedic timing in this movie. But besides that, again, it's the Mafia scenes. I don't like the Mafia mother, and I don't really care for the Mafia son, even though I know he plays Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't like it. They're just, the whole Mafia scene in this movie, the whole Mafia part of this movie really gets me upset. Now for soundtrack, I'm actually going 8 out of 10 for soundtrack. There was quite a bit of songs and even like sounds in the background that were actually really good for me, and that gave me suspense, that made me chuckle, that made me laugh, that were like, oh, that's actually a song that's really good and catchy. And yeah, it was really fun. Just the soundtrack was really good, and that's why it's an 8 out of 10. Very short. Now action, I'm going 7 out of 10. The action, plenty of action scenes in this movie. That's why I compared it to Violent Night, especially with the action types of Violent Night. Now, the only reason it isn't like higher than a 7 is because, again, CGI blood, and there isn't a lot of multiple scenes. Now, there is a lot of good action stuff that happens in this movie, like a lot of gore in this movie, but there's just like, it's the CGI blood, man. Like, at least in Violent Night, it looked kind of realistic, but the gore and like the fake blood, well, obviously, but like the like CGI blood just does not correlate with me. Now for enjoyment, I'm going 8 out of 10. I did enjoy this movie. I had plenty of laughs, plenty of scenes that I was like, that was so cool. Nicolas Cage was amazing. It was just the Mafia and the CGI blood. That's the only problems I had with this movie. But besides that, this movie was very fun. Nothing really amazing to talk about, but nothing really awful that I was like, this movie shouldn't exist. Now, ending, I'm going 6 out of 10. The ending scene was pretty cool. You get to see Dracula, and they kind of kill off Dracula, and they do a lot of stuff to Dracula. My. Put him in cinder blocks and like kind of compile him into smaller blocks and smaller pieces, and then send him off to a sewer. Okay, that's how you get rid of a person, I guess. But the Mafia scenes where, you know, you see all the Mafia people have the same powers as Renfield, I'm just like, dude, what's the point? Like, oh my gosh. But it was still cool, and then you get to see Renfield kind of living his life, he's happy, and then he resurrects all the people from the anonymous meeting, which I'm so happy for, because when they all died by Dracula, I was very sad, and I'm glad that they're all back. So finally, overall, I'm giving this movie a 6 out of 10. Look, it was fun. Nothing awful about it. It was just not my complete cup of tea, I guess. It was really a fun time, but that's really it. It could have been more. It could have been less though. There wasn't so much CGI blood. I probably would have liked this movie a lot more. And if there was kind of like a better story with the mafia. Like, I just didn't really care for that at all. But you know what? I get it. I understand where they were going with the movie, with narcissistic abilities, stuff like that. It was still a fun time. Just nothing to really brag about. Now, this movie for me isn't going to be like amazing, obviously. I'm probably not really gonna watch it again in theaters. Definitely I would classify this as a watch at home movie. I would just put this on the TV and watch it at home. Alright, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. And if you guys want some more movie reviews, let me know in the comments what movie you want me to review. If you want any news, what you want me to cover, stuff like that. So yeah, with that being said, thank you so much. Disney out. Peace.